Good evening. My name's Chuck Iovan, and I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting of the Planning Board, August 14th, 2023. Thank you for your patience while we got the technology up and running. We'll start off first with, I have some administrative things to take care of, and then we will go into a roll call of the board, and then we will do 341, 343 Highland Ave, and then 204 Main Street. For those in attendance, under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. So we'll start with Okay, so we'll start with the roll call, starting with Ronnie Verma.
Ronnie Raj Verma, Planning Board.
Planning Board.
Diane Chuha, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Eric Kush, Planning Board.
Okay.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Stephanie Stone, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. Diane, will you read the notice for the first hearing, 341, 343 Highland Ave, please?
Yes. The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Monday, August 14th, 2023, on the petition of Hai Feng Hong, permit application number RES 038315-2021, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Chapter 28, Section 010DI of the Code of the City of Malden to alter and change use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district, namely to convert the vacant storefront to a fourth residential dwelling unit and to change use of the building from a three-family dwelling to a four-family dwelling at the property known as and numbered 341-343 Highland Ave, Malden, Mass., and by City's Assessor's Parcel ID number 029140001.
Thank you very much. And I see the petitioner attorney is here.
Is this mic on, Mr. Chairman?
It is.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Patrick McDonald with offices at 479 Eastern Avenue here in Malden, representing the petitioner, Mr. Haifeng Wang, with respect to the subject petition before the board. This petition seeks a special permit to convert one unit within the existing structure at 341, 343 Highland Ave from its former use as a commercial unit within that structure to a residential unit. Subject property is a mixed-use residential and commercial structure currently containing 3 residential units, and as I mentioned, the ground floor street-level commercial unit. The commercial unit was most recently used as a dry cleaning establishment, but that use goes back that use has lapsed for approximately 5 years at this point in time. Around 2018, that tenant vacated the property, and no substitute or subsequent commercial occupant replaced it. And as a consequence, it being a grandfather non-conforming property, the failure to utilize the grandfathered status for the unit as a commercial unit for more than 2 years caused the property to lose that status. So at present, the 3 residential units are grandfathered residential in what is now a Residence A zoning district, but the commercial use has lapsed, and that unit within the building is basically in limbo at this point. It can't be used as its former commercial use, and it can't be converted to a residential use without the benefit of a special permit granted by this body. And that is exactly what the petitioner is asking the board to allow at this point. The proposal does not increase or enlarge the structure or the structure's footprint in any way, shape, manner, or form. The building will remain, at least with respect to exterior footprint and height, identical to what exists right now. The proposal, as I said, is to simply convert the existing commercial unit into a residential unit, and therefore all changes would occur within the structure, nothing outside the structure. So no, and as a consequence of that, there would be no exacerbation of any existing dimensional control violations. And the property admittedly is replete with dimensional control violations. It's an older structure, and it was built prior to current zoning, and frankly, it is significantly in non-compliance with respect to dimensional control. But as I said, this proposal doesn't exacerbate any of those dimensional control violations. It would, if allowed by the board and based on Planner Romero's report, further increase non-compliance with respect to density and open space, as well as a very modest increase in non-compliance with respect to parking. If I read the planner's report correctly, current parking, meaning for 3 residential units based on the approval that was granted for those back in 1985, as well as the prior commercial use, would require 8.5 parking spaces. And the new proposed use, which would convert it to 4 residential units, 3 based on the previous zoning in 85 and the 4th one based on this, I think would generate a need technically for 9 parking spaces. Unfortunately, the property itself does not contain any parking spaces. Again, it's non-compliant with respect to zoning in that respect. But we do respectfully suggest to the board that this is going to meet the standard here, which is that the request not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I base that suggestion to the board on the following, that this is not an ideal property, and we don't suggest that it is by any means to the board. It's problematic, but not unlike many other properties in the city. We have a great number of mixed-use properties. The current zoning has converted much of the city into Residence A, and this section of Highland Avenue is now Residence A. This will at least bring the property into compliance with current zoning with respect to use. It turns it into a completely residential property in what is now a completely residential area, except for those remaining grandfathered properties. We think that's a benefit to the neighborhood. The increases or exacerbation of any other zoning requirements related to it are comparatively minor. As I said, there are no, the changes will not exacerbate or increase any dimensional control violations. They will increase moderately or modestly density and open space, and a very minor increase in parking. There is no parking on site. There is publicly available parking on Highland Avenue and Russell Court. We're not aware, nor have we been informed of any serious parking difficulties in this property. We don't believe that converting that 4th unit to a residential unit would increase parking or traffic problems in the area. A residential unit is less likely to create the kind of traffic and parking issues that a commercial storefront unit would, being open anywhere from 5, 6, or 7 days a week during normal business hours with attendant traffic and customer and business and so on and so forth. We think that if it's a residential unit, will there be a need for parking? Yes, but will it exacerbate the existing conditions down there? We'd suggest to the board that it won't do that. And as I said, the most important part of the proposal is that currently the unit can't be used for anything, or at least not legally used for anything. It's in limbo. The commercial use having lapsed, and the residential use not allowed unless and until we're able to obtain relief from this board. But if we do, we bring that property into compliance with what is the preferred zoning and the preferred character of property in that zoning district, which is all residential. So it converts one potentially problematic multi-use or mixed-use property in a Residence A zoning district to at least one that is entirely residential. We've had an opportunity to review the staff report and recommendation. We note several conditions recommended by the planner, provided the board were to grant it. I've discussed those with the petitioner. They are eminently reasonable, and if the board were to grant, subject to those conditions would not be a problem for the petitioner. I have with me here tonight, this evening, the Huangs. They're here, Mr. and Mrs. Huang. Mrs. Huang is more fluent in English, so if the board would indulge us, if the board has any questions that might be better answered by the petitioner, I'd ask that she be able to speak on behalf of her husband, if that's the case, only because she'll understand the question better and be able to provide a more informative answer to the board if asked.
Okay, if it turns out that you're unable to answer the questions, we can certainly invite her up to do that. Would just like to let everyone know, please state your name and address for the record, speak into the microphone, and sign the clipboard if you do speak this evening. Counselor, the biggest question I have, I understand the situation, I understand the problem. The biggest questions I have involve the fact that we're going from 6 bedrooms up to 9, so a 50% increase in this one unit, which is a really big unit with 3 bedrooms in it. And my question is, where do people park now, and where are you expecting 50%, potentially 50% more people with cars to park?
Well, without having conducted a survey of any kind, Chairman, with respect to the occupants, I assume that parking to the extent it's needed for the occupants of the property is done in public spaces located on the street. I am, however, unfamiliar with the present automobile ownership status of the tenants in the building, and perhaps the Huangs may be more knowledgeable about that particular aspect of their tenants and could conceivably answer that question perhaps more definitively. But in the absence of consulting with the actual occupants of the unit, I can't represent to the board exactly where they park, except to say that because there are no spaces on site, they must be parking, if at all, in public spaces located near the property.
Right, and when, on my visit, what it looks like is they put up signs on the building saying no parking, except for occupants. I don't know if you can do that on a private way. They also seem to have lined out parking spaces next to their house. And I'm not sure you can do that. So I'm curious where people, I'd like to find out if anyone on the team can answer it, how many cars are associated with the property now and where they're parking. Thank you.
J.E. Huang, presenting my husband the property 343 Highland Avenue and Malden. Now we have free apartment rental and free parking for each car for each apartment is parked on the Russell Street. Is like that is the private road, so they park out there. If we get the permit, special permit to pull for the commercial space, we do not have. I'm honestly saying I do not have parking, for it. They only can park on the both side street or the other street, get the permit parking.
Okay, so right now you have 3 units and
free
each
car.
unit has a car.
Yes, each unit have 1 car.
And there's no provision, and it's tough, it's a tough location. You would expect them to park on Highland Ave for any additional cars associated with the proposed 3-bedroom unit.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you considered not doing a 3-bedroom and only doing a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom
if we can do 2-bedroom. Yeah, and then, the other space can, become a storeroom.
Okay.
Again, I appreciate the board's not at the point where it's voting or anything, but I would suggest that, as Mrs. Wong just mentioned, that if the petition were to be more palatable to the board, if the number of bedrooms in the proposed fourth unit were reduced from 3 to 2, that would be a further condition that would be acceptable to the petitioner, and we could submit a revised interior floor plan reflecting only 2 bedrooms in the unit. The other room could be used as a den, or you already have a living room in the proposed unit, so a den or a storage room. We could modify the plan to reflect what the board was asking for and reduce the number of bedrooms in the unit to 2.
Okay, thank you, Counselor, because I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I just think it's a lot more to add. So we're basically making this a 4-unit building in Residence A. And the only thing is the housing across the street that would be comparable to it. The rest of it is singles and twos, as I observed and as the staff report has indicated. I presume you will continue to use city trash removal?
That was to be honest, Chairman, hadn't given that much thought, but again, right now it's municipal rubbish collection at the site. We were not anticipating a change in that respect because of an additional unit, understanding that, at least through 2018, there were 4 units in the building, all of which were I believe, municipal rubbish collection. And if we get a 4th unit now residential, it would be the same thing. But as I said, if the board, if those kinds of issues are the kinds of things that would make the petition more palatable, and the board is inclined to suggest or contemplate additional conditions along those lines, I don't envision them being problematic for the petitioner. As I said, 2 bedrooms would be fine, and if the board feels strongly enough about a revised method of rubbish collection for the property, I don't see that as an issue either.
Okay. Can you speak to the green space? Looking at the plan, there's a few positions that are called grass or grass garden. I know looking in the back, there appeared to be a lot of garden areas along the back property line.
Yep.
Will you plan to continue that space with the landscaping that's currently there, or are you proposing any changes to the landscaping?
The site plan that is presented in support of the petition represents the manner in which the property will be developed or rehabilitated to a 4. There would be no changes to what, again, admittedly, a modest amount of green space, but we're certainly not looking to detract or reduce that in any way. But there isn't much more room to work with to create more green space anywhere on that lot.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Is there anyone else that has any questions for the petitioner? Anyone else any questions? Why is that not showing up? Whereabouts? Oh, give me a second. Is that not working? Okay, what do you want to try to do? it's working because I was able to go through the roll call. While Michelle plays with that, tries to get that to work, Eric, if you could just speak loudly and ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Counselor, when the property went, the commercial property went vacant in 2018, why didn't we get another commercial renter?
Well, they tried to, and they had difficulty. Of course, in 2020, the pandemic hit, and that made it even that much more difficult to try to rent it. If you'd like to speak directly to Member McCush's statement.
Yes. But on 2018, we have someone very interesting for the grocery store, and then they have like the, contract with us, and then we renovation to them, and then, but, unfortunately did not get the permit from City of Malden, and then, finally, they decided to, exit for them, but on 2019 or around June or July, and then also they have barber shop, try to, for it, but we did not get permission from city, unfortunately, and then at that time, 2020 on April, we decided to petition to get a special permit for the residential, but I don't know what's going on, and then we did not hear anything. We tried to work with City Hall until, no one can give us the answer until this year. But unfortunately, City of Malden, April, and then they just not really give me the answer, and finally I contact Michelle about it, but on June, and then Michelle, finally gave me the answer. So that's the history. That's why the commercial space, vacate that long.
So the city had turned down permits for both the grocery store and the barber shop?
Yeah, they don't get approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to ask the petitioner a question? Okay, Michelle? There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I did want to note for the record that this petition was filed, or a similar petition was filed a couple of years ago, and it did somehow, I'm not sure what happened, if it was considered incomplete, but it is an older petition, so I do want to note that. They did try to file this. I want to say the first was either in 2020 or 2021 was one of the original applications that I had found. I can't speak to exactly what happened with that application. So I want to note that for the record. But I also did want to ask the petitioner, you have a playroom that's part of Unit 2 that seems to be bigger than most of the bedrooms, and also in Unit 2 you have a study room. And I was curious how those are actually used, and are they being used as bedrooms, or how is that regulated so that those rooms aren't used as bedrooms?
Right there, playroom in Unit 2?
Yeah.
You're being asked, is that being used as a bedroom?
No.
I'm sorry, Ms. Romero, the other,
So the study room, which is on the second floor, and then there's a playroom up on the attic floor?
Okay. The second floor, that room is very small, only can store something. It's very, very small.
Okay,
the study room
Yeah, it's very small. that
okay,
room.
and the playroom up in the
Yes.
attic,
Yes.
to the best of your knowledge,
Right.
that's not a bedroom right now?
No.
And then what's the room to the right of the playroom? What's that room?
That is the bedroom.
Okay, so below it says bedroom number 3, but it says playroom, and then there's the full bath, and what's to the right? What's that other room?
On the other side, that is empty because like, they have the ceiling, it's just like, it's not really a hole, it's just like,
It's a slanted
yes,
ceiling.
let's say
Okay,
south.
I
We
see,
cannot
okay.
do anything about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
That was it, thanks.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Counselor, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, Mr. Chairman, just a question. I have what now passes for tear sheets with the newspaper. I'm not sure if the board already has them or if you need me to submit these.
No, we do have them, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss, could you make sure you sign the clipboard with your name and address so that we have the correct spelling and everything we need? And Counselor, if you could sign it too. I'm not sure if you gave your address when you first started.
Your home address. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone to speak in favor? Diane, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, excuse me, I have an email from, addressed to Michelle. It says, please include the following message from me as a public comment. To the members of the planning board, I would like to add my support to the 341 Highland Ave petition. I think it is essential that we find more ways to create housing units and options, given the urgent housing crisis our residents are facing. This seems like a reasonable project which is in keeping with the overall neighborhood. I encourage you to improve this special permit. Warmly, Carrie McDonald, Mayor, City Councilor at Large, Malden City Councilor at Large, excuse me. Oh, and forgive me, it was dated Monday, August 14th.
Thank you very much, Diane. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Sir, if you could come up and name and address for the record and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening to the board member. My name is Thomas Liu. I live at 13 Russell Court. Tonight, my wife, Pauline Su, is in the audience. If any question that you ask me that I could not answer, I would like to invite my wife to come to answer all your questions. Tonight, I also prepared some written document and some picture. So I'm going to hand to the board member so we can follow what I'm saying. And then if any question, you can ask me later. Can I pass?
Okay, yeah, if you bring them up here, we'll distribute them. Watch your step.
I start the name first? So basically, in the package that I hand to all members, I have 3 pages of written statement, and I have 3 pages of picture to demonstrate to you what I meant. And also, I have a copy of the City Ordinance 12.28.060 obstruction. Can I proceed now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'll just try to read out loud. Pauline and Thomas Liu, trustee, 13 Russell Court, Malden, Mass. 02148. Seat of Malden, Mass. Malden Planning Board, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. 02148. RE. Objection to the permit application number RES 038-315-2021 to alter and change use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district at the property known as and number 341-343 Highland Ave, Malden, Mass. 02148. Dear board members, I, as a 30 years resident at 13 Russell Court, respectfully request the board to reject Hai Feng Huang's request for a permit to convert 343 Highland Ave into a 4-family property. If the permit is granted, the conversion will, 1, worsen congestion and increase parking violations. 2, impede emergency response and utility services. 3, will be detrimental to me and my surrounding neighbor. 4, illegally claim part of Russell Court for himself. First, a 4-family property on the corner of Russell Court will worsen congestion and increase parking violation. Russell Court is a narrow asphalt road connecting Highland Ave and Russell Street. It is so narrow that it does not have a sidewalk and only allow 1 car to pass because cars are always parallel parked on one side of the road. The road parking is already extremely limited, and adding another household will further congest the Highland Ave Russell Court intersection. Hai Feng Huang and tenant at Highland Ave and Russell Street are aware police and parking enforcer will not intervene parking on Russell Court. So they park on Russell Court. Not only they can avoid parking violation citation, and it also saves them money for not to apply for a residential parking sticker. They park their cars so close to the sidewalk and sometimes extend to the sidewalk. These car owners treat themselves as their private parking space, and they can park in any way, any form they want. Every day, tenants at 341-343 Highland Ave have parked their car so close and sometimes extend to the sidewalk at the corner of Russell Court to Highland Ave and pose safety hazard. I have lived here at 13 Russell Court since 1986. Over 33 years, I have watched the Highland-Russell intersection get increasingly crowded with car parking as more and more tenants move into the area. The parking issue has now spilled into Highland Ave, where 3 or more cars are parked as close to the entrance to Russell Court as possible, making it extremely difficult for people to turn in. There is already minimum living and parking space for 3 households at the corner. Adding another household will worsen the parking situation and possibly force my fellow neighbor to park elsewhere. Second, a 4-family property will impede emergency response by limiting the already crowded and narrow intersection. I fear that the fire department, medical, law enforcement services will not be able to reach my family in time when I need them in an emergency. Russell Court only has room for 1 car to pass through. How do you think a fire truck, ambulance, or multiple police car would be able to turn into Russell Court when there are 2 cars parked directly at the corner? Even the garbage truck have trouble turning or leaving Russell Court. I have seen on one occasion a garbage truck hitting a parked car at Highland Avenue Russell Court intersection because there was simply no room to turn in or out of the road without hitting either parked car flanking the entrance. Residents at Russell Court has been called to the police and traffic department to enforce City Ordinance 12-2A-060 obstruction. That car parked at corner of Russell Court to Highland Ave is extended onto sidewalk. The parked car is obstructing the view to the sidewalk that potential pedestrian will walk by and posing safety hazard to the pedestrian. That also led to vehicle operator couldn't see the pedestrian. The parked car is also obstructing the view of incoming traffic to Highland Ave. All calls to the police department were turned down because the police department said Russell Court is a private way and the police cannot enforce the parking rule. If residents and property owners on Russell Court can't call police for assistance, who should we call? The intersection of Russell Court and Highland Ave is without yellow metal plate installed at the end of sidewalk and without crosswalk marking that make Russell Court look like a driveway. When motor vehicle operator couldn't see Russell Court well, subsequently they will park. Sometimes it's partially block the Russell Court to Highland Ave intersection. In addition, because a traffic pole at the corner of 341-343 Highland Ave was removed and haven't been replaced with a new pole and a new traffic sign. That traffic pole used to have a sign that said, "No parking here to corner." Without traffic signage, tenants at 343 Highland Ave are parking their car at the corner so close to Russell Court that is making it difficult to make a turn onto Russell Court. Because there is no traffic signage posted, therefore, any parking violation cannot be enforced, and people think it is okay to park. Third, a 4-family conversion will be detrimental to me and my surrounding neighbors. Adding another household will add more traffic and less parking for the residents of Russell Court. There are 3 single families and 3 multifamily homes on Russell Court, all with multiple cars per household. That is an estimate of 20 cars for about 8 available street-side parking spots. Adding another car will once again worsen the congestion and quality of life for me and neighbors to find parking for an already tight and competitive street. Lastly, Hai Feng Huang has claimed area of Russell Court for himself with illegal signage and traffic marking. He has posted signage stating, "Private property, no parking. Violator will be towed away at vehicle's owner's expense and paying parking lot on Russell Court, pass outside of his property line. The line and signage show that Highland is claiming area of Russell Court as his own when the parking spots are crowded outside of his property. Russell Court is a private way, but that does not mean any resident can claim part of the street as their own. Russell Court was intended to be shared by all residents for parking and road access. If residents could claim part of the street, wouldn't I be able to claim section Russell Court myself? Question mark. In conclusion, I respectfully ask the board to reject the permit for a four-family home because the addition of more people will worsen parking and traffic with more cars. Obstruct emergency response because cars are parked too close to the corner and is already illegally claiming part of a shared private way for himself. Please take my objection into consideration when deciding the application. If appropriate, I would like to extend my invitation for a representative of the board to meet me at the property to allow me to show my objection firsthand. We further request the board to consider further measures to control the existing traffic and safety violation arising from this problem, and use its power to enforce controlled conditions needed to include in the approval notice. I am happy to hear what conditions are needed to start this proceeding. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Thomas and Pauline Liu, 13 Russell Court, Malden, Mass. 02148. The next page is the City Ordinance 12 2A-060 obstruction. Basically, it's regarding any obstruction, you block the view at any intersection. I have three pictures here, and the first one I would like to show is on Highland Avenue, there is a pole for traffic has been removed but haven't been replaced. The second objection is impede the emergency response and utility service. As you can see, as Chairman pointed out, there is a marked line on Russell Court and signage post at 341-343 Highland Avenue. As you can see, the car was parked too close to the sidewalk. Today, this tenant has a small car. A couple years ago, a tenant, he left. He owned a big full-size SUV with a Liberty license plate. Basically, he is doing business. When that car parked at the corner, it definitely extends to the sidewalk and blocking all the view. However, that tenant was gone. I don't know what happened to tomorrow's tenant. Another picture I show is the marking on Russell Court and the signage that he posed. That is an illegal claim park of Russell Court for himself. And that's all I have. Any board member has any question?
I don't see anyone has any questions, but thank you very much, Mr. Liu, for presenting this, and it will be included in the record.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Mr. Liu, if you could just make sure you sign the clipboard.
Yes, I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Diane, do you have anything to read in opposition?
Yes, I do.
Oh, hold on, there you go.
Okay, we have an email dated Monday, August 14th. Dear City of Malden Planning Board, my name is Robert Siri, and my wife's name is Anna Siri. We have lived in 18 Russell Court for 55 years, where we raised our children, and now we get to enjoy our grandchildren playing with their parents, playing where their parents played when they were little. We are now in our mid-70s and object to the proposed project permit application number RES 038-315-2021. First of all, the continued view blockage of the sidewalk and traffic in Highland Ave due to the current tenants parking on the corner of Russell Court represents a major risk to anyone coming out of Russell Court, but specifically to us in our old age. An extra family living at 341-343 Highland Ave will only make the current problem worse. Every time that we have submitted a complaint about parking issues in our street, the City of Malden responds with, "It's a private way and they cannot enforce any ordinances or regulations." However, this is not a private way anymore, as people use it for regular traffic, even though they don't live in the street. Additionally, there's no sign up indicating that it is a private way and the traffic cannot go through through at any time. Secondly, when the tenants of 341-343 Highland Ave park illegally on Russell Court, it obstructs vehicles as the trash pickup truck of entering Russell Court without maneuvering to not hit any parked cars at the corner of Russell Court. More than any trash pickup truck, our concern is that in the event that an emergency happens to me or my wife, emergency vehicles will not be able to get through in time to potentially save our lives. Lastly, we are in agreement with all the additional issues that my neighbors Pauline and Thomas Liu from 13 Russell Court have brought up to this board's attention. We humbly request for the board to listen to our concerns and not allow for the permit application RES 038-315-2021 to get approved. These are very serious safety concerns that can critically affect Russell Court residents. Thank you in advance for your attention. Robert and Anna Sierra, 18 Russell Court, Malden, Mass. A letter dated August 14th from Claudia Petrillo. This is Dear Board of Appeals. I am the property owner of 340-342 Highland Ave, as well as the owner for the last 18 years of North Shore Realty Associates, Inc., 340 Highland Ave. Due to a previous scheduling obligation, I regret that I will not be able to personally attend tonight's meeting concerning 341-343 Highland Ave. Owners requesting a special permit to obtain a new residential unit where a commercial unit was long ago established. I have no ill toward new owners, and I write this letter only with concerns about what an additional 3-bedroom apartment and tenants requiring parking would create. My understanding is that the property currently has 6 bedrooms and does not have any off-street parking. Adding an additional 3 bedrooms would require a minimum of 9 parking spaces altogether. For this reason, among other reasons that I will not share with the board at this time, I ask that the board consider this letter in opposition to said request for a special permit. Sincerely, Claude Petrillo, North Shore Realty Associates, 340 Highland Ave, Malden, Mass. And an email dated Monday, August 14th, regarding objection to the permit application number RES 038-315-2021 to alter and exchange use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in Residence A zoning district at the property known and numbered as 341-343 Highland Ave, Malden. Dear board members, my family and I have lived at 23 Russell Court for the past 22 years. The property has been in the family for over 65. The past few years, parking has become a major issue on the court. Out of the 6 houses that are on the court, only 1 is able to park on it. The other 7 spaces are taken at each end of the court by residents of 341-343 Highland Ave and Russell Street. I own a 2-family house where my daughter and tenant are forced to park on Highland Ave due to 3 spaces being taken by the 341-343 Highland Ave residents. By adding another apartment, this will only increase a problem that still needs to be resolved. I had my sick mother living here last year, and emergency vehicles had trouble getting down our street due to how cars are parked at both ends of the court. When police or the city are called, we constantly get, "It's a private way," and we are left with no help. We also have an issue where cars are parked on the wrong side of the street. Police came and said there were no signs indicating what side was correct. We do not have sidewalks, and it's impossible to drive on the opposite side of the street due to telephone poles. There are no signs, but clearly there's only one side of the street to park on. We pay taxes, but our street is not cleaned, and parking issues occur because of it being a private way. Also, plowing is a huge issue in the winters. The cars parked on each end, making it impossible for plows to get down the street. The residents at 18, 19, and 23 Russell Court have all had to snow blow the street because of this issue. The 341-343 Highland Ave property currently has 6 cars. Adding more will again only escalate the current parking issues. There have been many times my wife has come home with groceries and not been able to park in front of my house because of the parking issues. Russell Court residents should be the only ones allowed parking on Russell Court if we are truly a private way. 341-343 Highland Ave and Russell Street should not be parking on the court. Adding additional residents of 341-343 Highland Ave again caused the current issue to be magnified even more. That is why we are opposed to the addition of 341-343 Highland Ave. Sincerely, James and Melissa Conroy, 23 Russell Court, Malden, Mass. That is it.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. I don't see anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this petition, and there's no more in opposition to be read, so I declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anything in general that needs to be read in? Michelle or Diane? No, I don't have anything. Very good. At this point, then, declare the portion of the meeting in opposition to be closed. And Michelle, could you take us through your staff report, please, and recommendation?
So I'm reading from the planning report and recommendation dated August 14th, 2023. I won't read it into the record verbatim, but this is referenced and incorporated herein by reference. So we heard about the property. I've given you the breakdown here according to the plans, the existing units and their locations, the size, the number of bedrooms, any additional notes, as well as the proposed units, their sizes, locations, and number of bedrooms. The basement is labeled unfinished. I will note that. There is access from the existing first floor unit and the outside. The plans, you have copies of the plans that were submitted, the site plan and the floor plans. In terms of zoning and occupancy, the property is located in the Residence A zoning district. The 3-family dwelling is prohibited in the zoning district. It was legalized by special permit in 1985. The dry cleaners, the storefronts was allowed by variance granted in 1966. That retail services use was also legalized by the special permit granted in 85. The use, as the petitioner stated, is considered to have lapsed for non-use for more than 2 years. The proposed 4-family dwelling is prohibited in the district. It may be allowed by special permit as a residential conversion of a non-conforming property. The direct abutters to the north and east are 2-family dwellings. To the south, on the other side of Russell Court, is a 2-family dwelling. To the west, on the other side of Highland Ave, is a multifamily dwelling and a mixed-use building. Surrounding land uses are residential, single and 2-family dwellings, and institutional, the Mystic Valley Regional Charter School High School. In terms of dimensional controls, the existing building grossly violates all dimensional controls except height, is considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposal increases the existing violations of density and open space and maintains all other existing violations. Giving you the breakdown, what's required for lot area, all the setbacks, open space, density, et cetera, for the 3-family as well as for the 4-family, what's provided, what the existing deficiencies are, and what the new deficiencies are. So the existing lot area deficiency would stay the same at 78%. The existing frontage deficiency would stay the same at 3%. Front yard setback deficiency, 98%, that would remain the same. The side yard setback deficiency, 7% and 64% will remain the same, and the rear yard setback deficiency, 65%, would remain the same. In terms of open space, more open space is required for the additional unit. So currently, there's an existing deficiency of 60%. It would be increased to 70%. With the 4-family use, building coverage, the existing deficiency is 50%, and that would remain the same. Density, the existing deficiency is existing deficiency is 54%, and that would increase to 66%. There's no violation of the height. In terms of parking, the existing three-family requires 4.5 parking spaces under the applicable requirements from 1985. There's no parking on site, it's 100% deficient. The property is considered pre-existing non-conforming. I will note for the record, note 3 is incorrect. 5 spaces would be required for the retail services use, it's 4 per 1,000, so that comes out to 5, not 4. The proposed 4-family dwelling with 9 bedrooms requires 9 spaces, 1 space per bedroom. Again, there's no parking proposed, and it maintains the 100% efficiency. Adjacent to the property, on-street parking is allowed on both sides of Highland Ave, restricted by posted signage. It appears to be allowed on the property side of Russell Court. As the chairman noted in the petitioner, there is parking, or as some of the abutters noted, there is parking lined on Russell Court, but that is actually on Russell Court, so that's not legitimate parking spaces. And where you see the cars parked in the pictures, that is not on the petitioner's property, that's on Russell Court. Finding required to grant the special permit, this board would need to find that the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. If you make that finding, the recommendation would be to grant the petition for a special permit subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. 2, the maximum number of bedrooms is 9. And 3, basement may be used for storage, utilities, laundry. No bedroom or other residential living space are allowed. Not sure if you could add something about removing the sign on the building that says parking. It seems to suggest the parking on the street is for the tenants only, and violators would be towed. You could definitely put that in as a condition. I'm just saying, it's not based on any ordinance. It's just a random sign. I don't know if people follow it or they don't. But you could ask that as a condition to any special permit. You can impose any reasonable conditions for use of the property. So if you think that that's unreasonable to have that sign, you could make it a condition that it be removed.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle? Eric Henry.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. It seems that we've visited this topic of private ways again. And although I will admit this is probably one of the most creative uses of what I understand the ordinance as it pertains to a private way, and that being that the owner of that property owns to the middle of that street. Then I've never seen that. Is it in the public good that he does what he does? I don't know, but is it within his right to do so? Because it is a private way. And I don't think I'm still not clear on the answer to that. Maybe someone can help me.
Yes, please.
Yes, he doesn't own to the center of the street. He doesn't pay taxes on it. It's not part of his parcel. He doesn't own that. He has rights to pass and repass. So doesn't the rest of the public, though, because it's held out, even though it's a private way, it's being used by the public.
Yes, it is being used in the public.
Sounds like there's trash and sometimes snow removal, so it could arguably be used and maintained as a public way. I'm not sure if that's the particular designation according to the city engineer for that, but he doesn't own to the center. He couldn't put up a fence. No abutter along any private way can obstruct the private way. So I think that's not correct. They don't, I know it's not correct. They don't own to the center.
So what gives our police force the right, the guidance to tell our citizens that it's a private way, they can do nothing?
I believe that's, and the chair can correct me if I'm wrong because he's on the traffic commission. I believe that's because that's how the ordinances are written. So they have police, parking enforcement over public ways. Is that
I
correct?
believe so, yes.
Yeah.
So the police can't ticket you, and actually,
No.
and they will tell you that you should, if it's private property, you should just call a towing company. At least that's what they've told me in the past. I'm still not very clear. That the citizen brings up a very good point with that, and I'll just yield with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Let me see who's blinking. Stephanie Stone.
Is it reasonable to ask to put up signs that say parking is for Russell Court residents only?
I'm not sure. And
If that's the case,
when
yeah.
we go to traffic, we'll reconvene in a few weeks' time. I'll certainly raise this, whereas in the past month or so, we've had a few questions about what the actual rules are around private ways.
And the line of sight seems to be somewhat concerning. So if there is a way to put something that shows where the cars can go up to make sure someone turning.
Right, and
Can
I'm
see.
also concerned about that no parking here to the corner sign that seems to have been removed.
Right. And I was curious about the trash receptacles too. That does seem like an awful lot of people. So there'd be various trash bins, and where do those go when it's not trash day? And is there an area that can be designated on the property?
It didn't look like it on the plan that I saw, but it would have to be on the property itself. It couldn't be stored on Russell Court. It would have to be on their property. Any other questions, Stephanie? Thank you. Any other questions? Let's see, council seeker is Eric McCush.
Thank you. With other proposals, we've had petitioners do traffic mitigation, like repair signs, or, so could they be required to replace the no parking here to corner sign as part of, was one of the conditions?
Michelle, I would think they'd call DPW.
Yes, I mean, they can, that sidewalk is city-owned, so only the city would be able to put that sign up.
Okay.
But I believe it would be, as the chairman said, through the DPW. If any, you could require any conditions for signage on their property.
So they could have
They
a
could
sign
have,
on their property that said no parking here to corner from
yes,
Russell Court
yes.
to the edge?
That I believe would be within their property, correct.
And then just one more question, if they were to reduce the amount of bedrooms, would that require them to come back with a different set of plans?
Well, that would be up to the board, if you would want to see what that plan looked like. If not, typically you do approve a special permit with the plans that are filed. If there's some I would call minor modification, you could probably move forward and incorporate a condition that, the maximum number of bedrooms be, state the number and then submit a revised floor plan. Now, the reason I'm suggesting you may want to see the plan is, right now, it does appear like they may be, I'm not sure, I believe they're adding walls. Let me just get the plan here. I don't know if they're using existing walls, existing rooms. Let me just look here. So the proposed, if you look at the existing first floor plan, they are adding, I'm sorry. So they're adding the walls to create the bedrooms. So, if you look at existing floor plan, unit 4 versus proposed first floor plan. So I guess my only question would be, do you want to see how big the bedrooms are, or their location, or it doesn't matter. I'm not sure, if you just stated revise the floor plan for 2 bedrooms only, they could keep the 3 rooms but label one not a bedroom. I'm not sure how we would regulate that it wouldn't be used as a bedroom, which kind of was my question about the other rooms that are already there, but this board's aware that we have that issue. You can put the condition in, and unless you're inside the building on a regular basis, if someone from the city is, there's no way to necessarily enforce that. So they could change one of the bedrooms and label it study or office or playroom, but, you know, you'd have to, you know, you wouldn't be sure that it wasn't being used as a bedroom, but you could, if it was discovered that it was, the city would have some enforcement to go in and say, look, that room can't be used as a bedroom. The thing is, that's more like an operational condition, you know. The city's not gonna go in every day, you know, to make sure. They would during the initial inspection, obviously. So it's up to the board whether you would want to see the plan showing the 2 bedrooms. But it would be, I think it could be, you know, a modification of this petition. It still would be looking to convert to 4-family, unless you're talking about, you know, merging that space into the other units. That I would say would be a different proposal. If you were, for example, to say you don't want a separate 4th unit, you want this merged into the other units. So the other units might get larger, but there still would only be 3 units. That I would definitely say you would want to, you know, that's possibly a different petition, and definitely would want to see the plan for that. If you were going in that direction, I would say they would, you know, you would want to take action on this petition, and they would come back with a new petition. Which would basically be to extend or expand the 3-family.
Does that answer your question, Eric?
It does, yes, thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle? Eric Henry.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Actually, it's probably more for you, not to hold you to a quote or anything like that, but maybe based upon your kind of tribal knowledge of traffic. You think it would be possible that they could put signage on stop signs on Russell Court?
Stop signs?
Correct.
I don't know that they would where it's a private way.
I know we have stop signs on private way, because where I'm going with this is that irrespective of it being in a private way, I know with certainty that you're only allowed to park with a certain amount of distance from a stop sign at an intersection or intersect from that stop sign. So if there were stop signs on Russell Court, then that would preclude the ability to park within X 20, 25 feet or something from that stop sign. I don't know if you had that explained to you as well when you're getting a ticket. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Chair, I'm not sure, I believe a stop sign is a I can't think of the term, but it's a traffic control sign. That's different from a parking regulation sign, isn't it?
Right, and it's usually
So-
for public ways.
Right, so I think like stop signs, yield signs, things like that have to meet certain criteria to be posted, right? There are
I believe so,
uniform
yes.
standards as opposed to parking. Any city or town can come up with its own parking regs, right? So I'm not sure if it's the same type of thing, but I hear where you're going with that. If you could at least put a stop sign, it might achieve the same.
I'm
Sense, yeah.
still trying to learn a whole bunch about this private way stuff. And I know on my private way, it intersects a state thoroughfare on the Fells Way. There's a stop sign and you're not, well, I've been told that you should not park within a certain amount of distance from that. And with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Michelle? Is there a motion then? No one cares to make a motion? Henry Susi.
Would a motion include tabling the matter until we have more of a clarification on the rights?
That certainly could be a motion to table it, and until we are able to get more clarity on the whole private way issue. I mean, that's certainly something we can do. The thing I just caution is that this will probably not be heard for a few months because of the backlog that we have. So at best, it would be picked up again in October. So just to make people aware of that, I know we got a full agenda in September. We're seeking about possibly having a special hearing, a second special hearing in September for another item that's going to be big. And so that would mean at the earliest we could address this again is October. But that's certainly a motion you can make.
No, I think it might be important because an outright denial, I mean, we're going to be left with this empty storefront, for infinitum. So I will make that motion that we table it until
Table till the next available meeting.
yes.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just specify exactly what you want to be done or what information you want specifically, whether that's from me or the petitioner or someone else in the city, just so you're clear, how will we know that it's ready to be taken off the table?
Henry, is the answers that you're looking for surrounding private ways? I think that's what Eric's looking for, guidance on what can be done with private ways. Is that what you're looking to address in your motion?
Essentially, yes. Go ahead, Eric.
I don't know if it would constitute making a friendly to that, but I'm also interested in what traffic would have to say with regard to give traffic the time to come back and maybe set us straight on some of those issues that I've raised as well.
Okay, so Henry is looking for traffic to weigh in on this, and Henry Susi is looking for the same thing, or just more guidance on private ways? And
Guidance on the private way.
Okay, so,
Does that help, Michelle?
so how it can be used or how,
ask
parking
Henry.
enforcement or, okay.
I mean, we're talking about potentially putting up signage, but if there's no enforcement, what does that really do for the residents?
And I don't know how much enforcement is going to be available on a private way.
Exactly.
Right, so we can
So,
get this information, and I don't know what the enforcement's going to
So
be.
if signs can be posted, and if there's, what the enforcement is for private ways? So,
Well, it depends. It depends what, hold on a second. Let me take care of these guys. So guys, so does Michelle have the crux of what you're asking about?
Yes.
Okay. You got Diane's asking about plans for a two-bedroom?
Yes, I'd like to see the revised plan to show that they're going to change that unit 1 that has, unit 4 that has the 3 bedrooms and make it a 2-bedroom. I'd like to actually see a revised plan showing how it will look,
Okay, so
if that's okay with Henry.
is that okay with Henry? Good. Do you have that piece, Michelle?
Okay. Revised plans for unit 4, 2-bedroom. So that would be the floor plan, okay?
Okay, and Eric McCush.
Thank you. Just, was there any documentation on the applications for the storefront to be used as either the grocery store or the barber shop, and the city's denial of those?
I didn't, I had actually looked that up. Hold on one second. So I saw that there was an application similar to this, to change from retail to single, 3 bedrooms. That was in 2020. That seems to be the same application. I believe that's the one I was referring to and the petitioner referred to had been filed, and then I'm not sure what the status of that, what happened to that. Then again, in 2021 was a similar special permit to convert, which is similar to this petition. And again, I don't, the records don't say what happened to that. That petition was never sent to me, and so it was never scheduled for public hearing. I can't.
So we don't have anything?
No, and then, I'm just looking quickly, these are all for things like insulation, these other permits, wiring, when they added, a second full bath. This is for boilers, renovating kitchens. I'm not familiar with any permit, the permit application for the barber would have been retail services, so that would have been the same use as the dry cleaner. Retail services can go in where retail services is, so there would have been no issue, they would not have needed to come for a special permit. The grocery store isn't allowed. Retail sales aren't allowed, convenience stores not allowed, supermarkets not allowed. There'd be no option to petition to convert. So perhaps they asked and were told, you can't apply for that. The barber, they definitely would have been able to apply for and get an occupancy permit for. So that, but I don't see any record of that either. So maybe, I'm not sure, maybe it was a conversation they had. But these are the 2 permits I found, 2020 and 2021, which appear to be the same permit that you're hearing now.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Eric?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. So right now, what we have is Henry's made a motion to table until we gather some of the information surrounding private ways, surrounding parking on private ways, and Diane was looking for information on getting new plans that have a 2-bedroom in the unit number 4. Is there anything else that we're looking for? No? Is there a second?
Or could we have in the plan where they could put trash in the revised plan?
Okay. And we want to see where they're going to store the trash for these 4 units.
Okay, so I have information regarding private ways, parking, signage, and enforcement, revised floor plan for 2 bedrooms, and revised site plan to depict trash storage.
Okay, is there a second? Diane Chuha.
I'll second.
And Henry made the motion, Henry Susi, okay. With those 3
Yes, with
pieces,
those 3
okay.
conditions, yes.
So a yes vote would be to table. Diane Shuha,
Yes.
Tawadich Geber Selassie,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Eric McCush,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Stephanie Stone,
Yes.
Ronnie Raj Verma,
Yes.
Chuck Iovan.
No.
Okay, so that carried 8-1. The motion passed.
Thank you. So, Counselor, it's been tabled until the next time, if, after we gather up this information that you heard people were looking for, so that they can make a more informed decision. And it's probably going to be at least until October. Thank you. Okay, Diane, can you please read the petition for 204 Main Street? I thought I did. There you go.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass., at 7 p.m. on Monday, August 14th, 2023, on the petition of 204 Main Malden LLC, permit application number CMID 045711-2022, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Chapter 12, Section 030, and Title 12, Chapter 12, Section 300 of the Code of the City of Malden to allow multifamily residential dwelling use up to 3 stories inclusive of property in the neighborhood business zoning district and in inclusionary development, namely to construct a building with 3 stories and a total of 33 dwelling units, including 4 affordable housing units at the property known as and numbered 204 Main Street, Malden, and by the city's assessor's parcel ID number 064309925.
Yes, and I see the petitioner is present, or his attorney is present.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Callahan, 1 Center Street, here in Malden. I'm here on behalf of the 204 Main Malden LLC, Andreas Zitos as the manager of that entity. I have here with me tonight Andreas, as well as Scott Fitzpatrick, our consultant, our construction consultant, and we also have the rest of our team, including our engineer and architect, if there's questions. But I plan on giving you an overview, and then Mr. Fitzpatrick will give you some of the detail of the project. We're here on 204 Main Street, as we've said. It's the site of the former Burns Funeral Home. It has a lot of 27,000 square feet, a rather large lot, of course, by Malden standards. We are proposing to demolish the existing 2.5-story building and construct 33 one-bedroom units on the site. In those 33 units, there will be 4 affordable units. The site will have, the redeveloped site will have 36 parking spaces, of which 25 will be under the building in a garage, and the remainder of the parking spaces will be at grade. With the one-bedroom project, again, all 33 units are one bedrooms, we're only required to have 33 parking spaces, but we are going to provide 36, so we'll have 3 guest spaces, which was a result of a neighborhood meeting, the neighbors suggesting that it'd be very helpful to have several guest parking spaces. We're here actually for 2 special permits. The first special permit is for the construction of the multifamily dwelling of less than 3 stories, which is allowed in a neighborhood business zoning district. So we require a special permit for that construction. But we're also here for a special permit under the inclusionary zoning provision of our ordinance. The special permit criteria for, which you're quite familiar with, for the construction of the project is that the project will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood, and the criteria for the inclusionary zoning is really rather simple. Do we conform to the inclusionary zoning, which I will suggest to you that we have done everything that we need to do and have committed to taking further steps as the project moves along. And with the inclusionary zoning, again, we're building and providing 4 affordable units, and we're also paying a fractional share. The calculation is actually 4.9, and so we're paying approximately $350,000 to the city in addition to building the 4 affordable units. Also, we have entered into a memorandum of understanding with the city to draft and record the appropriate restrictive covenants on the property prior to occupancy, so that the affordable component is preserved on record at the Registry of Deeds. Mr. Zitos has owned this property for several years, and we've been working through the plans and the various procedures. We did receive in 2002 permission to demolish the property from the Historic Commission. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we had a neighborhood meeting. We had 15 to 20 neighbors there, along with several city councilors, and we received some very good feedback. In fact, revised our plans after the neighborhood meeting. We had hoped to do a roof deck, a small roof deck, but the neighbors didn't believe that that was beneficial to the neighborhood, so we took that out. Also, we're insulating the closest neighbors from the parking, from the parking in the garage, just to provide them with more privacy and peace. And as I mentioned, also at the neighborhood meeting, the neighbors had suggested that several visitor spaces would be very helpful and benefit the neighborhood so there would not be any overflow parking if guests were to arrive. Also, earlier this year, we went to the Board of Appeals. We received 2 variances, one for density and one for lot coverage, and the remainder of the project conforms to zoning. So that moved this project along. We have reviewed the staff report and the conditions, and we agree wholeheartedly with all of the conditions as itemized and proposed in the staff report. So in conclusion, I'd suggest to you that this project is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think it would be a good addition. The 1 bedrooms obviously are much less intense than the larger units. They don't bring as many people, they don't potentially tax the school. And I should point out, these units are rather small. They're all under 700 square feet. So they're not large one-bedrooms, they're rather small one-bedrooms. But I would suggest that this would be a benefit to the community, and we thank you for your time, and I'll ask Mr. Fitzpatrick to guide you through the site and the layout.
Thank you, Counselor.
Good afternoon, Scott Fitzpatrick, 67 Maplewood Street, Malden. I think we should bring the architect up, and we do have a revised garage plan. We incorporated the bicycle parking that was identified in the planner's report that was initially missing. We were able to accommodate it in the parking garage in a secure room. We have a updated Mr. Chairman, should we pass out the updated plan that shows the bicycle parking?
Yes, if you want, you can pass those out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve can take us through the architecture of the building.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. For the record, Steve DeFeria, 16 Christine Drive, Atkinson, representing Phoenix Architects. So as mentioned, inside the footprint of the building, there's 25 parking spaces. Rick will go a little bit more in depth on the site, the parking, but just a brief overview of the parking level. It's a partially underground parking area, 25 spaces inside the building. All is an enclosed area that is enclosed by an overhead garage door off the front, off of Main Street. So residents will have enclosed parking area. Some utilities in the back here, sets a staircase, elevator up in the front, trash in the front right corner. And then as Scott mentioned, a recent change that was passed out before you is in the back right corner. We're now providing enclosed bike storage for residents. So they have an area to put their bikes inside the building, can stay protected. And that's located here in the back. Jumping up to the first floor plan, we're providing two access points, one main front door access off the front of the building right off of Main Street. You'll see how that starts to look in elevation with lots of glass, lots of transparency out towards Main Street. And then the secondary entrance off the back. Again, Rick will start to go with grading, how we start to get up there with the ramp system, but we are providing access right off of Main Street, right up into the building. Bringing you in, there's a main lobby area, mail packaging all contained there. And then on this floor, there's 11 one-bedrooms. Again, all under 700 square feet, most floored around the 620, 650 range. Big enough where there's an area for people working from home. They have a spot to put a desk, open concept, main living area, informal dining area with a peninsula, and then all of the amenities with coat closets, utilities, washer, dryer, all that sort of contained in the vestibule as you enter the unit. The units start to repeat as you start to work your way up. One thing that we started to incorporate inside the design, again, as you can see, the building's very linear off the back, pretty simple footprint, is we started to incorporate cantilevered bay windows in some of the units. Starts to increase the square footage in the units, but also starts to break up the facade a little bit. And I can show you guys an elevation in a minute. But those jut out about 2 feet, again, open air cantilevered. And then as you start to work your way up through the building, the second and third floor start to repeat. So unit count stays the same, unit layout stays the same. So 11 units on the second floor, and 11 units on the third floor. So 11 units per floor, all one bedroom, takes us to 33 units as mentioned. And then if you flip to the next page, this starts to show you three-dimensional aspects, tall glass, all kind of giving it that modern flavor. And then the last thing we try to provide is two color two-dimensional graphics for you guys, just to start to show color palettes, how all those start to contrast with inside those little seat channel bandings. We're proposing a smooth paneling product, thinking a dark color that starts to match well with black windows. And then in the intermediate areas, doing it in a composite wood siding. So again, a modern flavor, the darks, the wood tones. You can start to see lots of glass at that front entry there. And then down at the parking level, as mentioned, it is partially above ground, so incorporating a stone veneer to kind of hide the concrete that comes up above ground. So again, a color graphic at the front on Main Street, and then also looking at it on the side. So again, you guys can start to see the three-dimensional bay windows that start to jut out, the banding detail that starts to wrap, and then just how the siding starts to differentiate as you start to work your way back towards the building. Happy to answer any architectural questions. If not, I can hand it over to Rick and he can go more over site civil.
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind. Why did, I noticed when looking at the plans that floor one and floor two are essentially the same, but you removed the handicap unit on the third floor? Why was that?
Yeah. So in the bylaws, it states that if they're going to be rental units, that 5% have to be ADA. So if you do the math out, it comes out to about 2 units. So we just removed it on the third floor, and just did it.
So the ordinances won't let you do 3 units?
So you can. We just went to the maximum 5% and then just converted it over. There's different regulations and just in terms of design with clearances and stuff when you start to go to an ADA. But again, that can be something we can incorporate. We have the space.
You know, I was just curious why you didn't just replicate it over all 3.
Yeah.
Will you be incorporating, and it was hard to tell from the pictures, will you be be able to incorporate any of those granite posts and granite wall that's currently existing there?
Scott Fitzpatrick, we do plan on saving that and reworking it around the driveway. And that was a recommendation of the Historical Commission.
Oh, was
as
it?
well.
Okay.
I don't think it ended up in the decision, but that was something that was asked and something we committed to. We would salvage in the driveway area, rework the pillars, and save what's out there and make it work in the new project.
Okay. No, that's great because it's fantastic
Yeah,
pieces.
it adds a nice little touch to it.
Right. Question for you. I noticed when I was reading the Board of Appeal report that this is considered a unique shaped lot. What about a rectangle is a unique shaped lot? Because there's no topography problems. It seems to be, it's flat.
I think it was unique to the zoning district. Being unique to the zoning district, it's larger than all the other lots in that neighborhood zoning district, neighborhood business zoning district.
So the uniqueness was that it was so large
Yeah.
that you were able to get 11 more units.
It was, it's larger than the other, and that, under the requirements for the variance, it's, one of the triggers is something that's unique to that lot and not, that doesn't exist on the other lots in that zoning district. And the other lots in the neighborhood business zoning district, I think with the last lot, they're much smaller.
Oh, no, I agree. Yeah. No, I agree that they are. I'm just having a hard time connecting the dots on the fact that for the full-size lot, you were eligible for 18, but then you were able to secure a variance for 11 more because the lots would allow you 18. I just, and you got the variance, so I'm just more trying to understand it. Because when I looked at it, it's a rectangle, it's flat.
But it's significantly larger than the other lots in the district.
Okay.
That's the uniqueness of that lot.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I see some people here are asking, where's Councilor Winslow? Ronnie Raj Verma.
Any plans for any EV chargers in the garage in the basement, or maybe any solar, any plans for either one of those?
We have no plans for solar right now, but the building code does require us, or the building or the electrical requires us to provide electric charging stations. I don't know the number off the top of my head. It's a percentage of the parking spots. We're providing them on another project, residential, that we're building right now in Everett.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And then, so you're all set, Ron?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, no, go ahead. I thought there was another one, but thank you. Yep, you're welcome to come up. Oh, before you leave, if you could just sign the clipboard so we have your
Thank you.
correct name and spelling and address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Rick Salvo, Engineering Alliance with offset 194 Central Street in Saugus, Mass. Before you is the existing conditions plan of what's on the property right now. As Attorney Callahan mentioned, the lots comprise about 27,221 square feet. It's got about 133 and a half feet of frontage right on Main Street. As I'm sure most of you are familiar with the property, given the footprint of the building that's there and the large parking area, there's already a pretty large impervious footprint on the subject property. So the proposed design, while bigger, only results in a very slight increase in impervious surfaces. Access to the site will be via 2 curb cuts. This curb cut will enter into the underground garage, will slightly pitch down into the garage. This surface parking lot here, through the southerly curb cut, will all be at grade. There'll be pedestrian access via a handicap ramp for those that require accessible access to the building, and there's also a set of stairs here for those that don't require the accessible access. Dimensionally, obviously, we talked about the relief that was granted, which really had to do with the lot coverage and the density. All the setbacks, front yard, side yard, height, so on and so forth, all comply with the zoning. In terms of stormwater management, the elevation at the back of the site is about elevation 42, 43. The elevation at the low corner over here is about elevation 38. Relatively flat site, but there is some pitch which causes all the stormwater to run basically in sort of a northeasterly direction. Currently, with all those impervious surfaces that are on the site now, there is no stormwater management. In the post-development condition, all of the impervious surfaces will be mitigated. The surface parking lot over here includes a deep supported catch basin, which will drain to a water quality unit, to a subsurface infiltration field underneath the parking lot. The small driveway area in here is equipped with a trench drain that discharges to a 1,000-gallon dry well, and then the entire roof is mitigated by perforated pipes on either side of the building. So this is a significant decrease in the peak rate of stormwater runoff, leaving the site and heading into the municipal drainage system in the post-development condition as opposed to the pre-development condition. Finally, we did submit a landscaping plan that was prepared by James Emanuel, who's a registered landscape architect. We're proposing 9 trees around the site, which are shown these symbols here. Series of deciduous trees, dogwoods, maple trees, and the like. There's about 39 evergreens that are also planted around the site, and 63 shrubs that are also in around the building footprint, just to add some interest to the site. So we're adding quite a bit of planting. We did notice on the staff report, there was a requirement to put a fence along the southern property line there, and that will be incorporated into the design as well. That's essentially the way the site lays out, so I guess if there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer them.
So all those mature trees that are on the southern property line will be taken down?
The trees that are over here will be retained. The majority of the rest will be, in this area here, will be coming down, yes.
Will be coming down. And have you gotten approval from the city engineer yet for your storm management plan?
I know it's been submitted to him for review. We haven't seen.
Okay, but you haven't
comments
heard
either
it
way.
because
Yep.
we hadn't heard yet, as of earlier today, we hadn't heard back yet either. So I was just curious if you had any interactions with them.
We had not yet.
But what I think I heard you say was basically that there's, the improvements primarily is the catch basin in the surface parking lot.
Yeah, catch basin in the surface parking lot. There's a trench drain in the small driveway that heads down into the garage. So that water's mitigated as well. And then we're also mitigating the whole roof. So there's a tremendous amount more mitigation than what currently exists today.
Okay. Very, very good. It's from the landscaping. I don't have any questions from landscaping. Oh, hold on a second. Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering when would be, you think we'd get a look at those stormwater, drain water plans? And based upon your experience, do you anticipate any issue with the city engineer approving the plans that you submitted?
So the stormwater plan has been prepared. It was submitted along with our application. You know, we've done at least a handful of projects with the city engineer. I don't think we've ever run into any kind of insurmountable issues on our designs, but like I said, I don't want to put words in his mouth. We just simply haven't heard back from him yet.
No, I wouldn't put words in his mouth either, but I would compliment your organization in that you do set, in my opinion, a standard with regards to stormwater and drain water management and structures is the way you manage your properties, and by and large, it should be emulated. If more, I think it would exceed the standards. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, wow, who's this? Stephanie Stone.
Yeah, I had a question about any safety measures for pedestrians on the sidewalk with the cars coming in and out of both the garage and the surface lot.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be under stop sign control. You know, there's pretty decent sight distance here. I don't really see the need to have like a flashing beacon or anything like that. You know, there's pretty good visibility from the sidewalk to it. So at this point, I think it would just be stop sign control unless, you know, the board had any specific concerns.
Okay.
Diane Chua.
Yeah, I might have missed this. There's not going to be any roof deck or anything, is there?
No, no roof deck.
Okay, and the air conditioning compressors are probably going to be up on the roof?
I believe so.
And will they be shielded?
Yeah, we have a parapet wall, right? Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Very good. What about trash removal? I noticed that there was no dumpsters on site that weren't construction dumpsters. I'm presuming that you've exceeded the ability to use the city trash pickup. How are you going to be handling trash pickup?
Totes. In the garage, the room on the right-hand side at the bottom of the ramp is designated as a trash room. And our plan right now is to use the 96-gallon totes.
So a third-party company come in and empty the 96-gallon totes?
There's all our properties, and they'll they won't go out ahead of time, they'll come up, they'll pull them up, dump them in the truck, they come back down. And the frequency will, determine on the use, some,
Depending on how quickly they fill up.
yeah, it's tough, we can have two buildings that have the same amount of units and bedrooms, and they generate different trash.
Did you consider building the fifth affordable unit instead of making the cash contribution?
We've been at this a while. This planning process started, I think, close to 2 years ago. And at the time we started, that wasn't an option, at least talking to Nelson. That change happened somewhere.
Yeah, more recently, right.
Somewhere in, we were in pretty deep. So it would have required us to go back to the ZBA. It would have required us to redesign the building, because with that fifth affordable, we would have got another bonus unit on the density, the affordable. So it would have, sent us back to the drawing board, and then the financials right now are just, as it is, it's affecting the financing of the project, and Andreas is gonna have to come out of pocket more than he would on a conventional, and, he can talk a little more about that, but it's in the 50% loan-to-value ratio with the affordable units. So it really, takes a hit on the financing of the project as well.
Those extra 11 units should soften that blow.
Well, they'll help, but he's still coming out of pocket building.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Presuming, when would you start the demolition, and how long would it take for the construction, and what's your timeline on that? Would you be staging the construction on site? Because that's kind of a busy area. I read the traffic report, and I was surprised that only 13 trips would be generated during the morning rush hour.
Yeah, so, different phases of it. Fortunately, there won't be any big, most of it is wood frame. So, those delivery trucks, they can get in off the site, they can make the deliveries. When we're hauling off site for the basement excavation, we'll have police details. We always do, so the trucks can get in and out, and we'll always work with whoever's in charge of the traffic department for the police at the time. When we hauled out of Maplewood Street, we worked and found a staging area for the trucks, and we typically start them as early as possible, as the ordinance allows, to get them in and out. When we were down there, we had to work around the 3 different schools getting out, and we just coordinate with the traffic department, the police, the police department's traffic division, on getting the details and where we can stage trucks and when we can haul.
But would you be able to start before the end of this construction season with at least a demo?
That's a great question for our design team, because we don't have full construction documents yet. All we have is the zoning documents that were submitted. We haven't gone into full, there's a significant cost in full construction documents that will be started once this is approved.
Okay, any estimate on how long, take away the winter, any estimate on how long it would take to demo it, and then how long to rebuild? Or would that be part of these?
I'd say about 18 months
Start to finish?
to demo to occupancy. That would be once we're ready to start.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you anticipate any ledge removal?
I hope not.
Because I know that area is a little bit fluky. There could be some, but
There's a full basement in the main funeral home right now. That's close to the elevation of where we need to be. There's no outcroppings of ledge in the basement. We haven't done test pits yet.
No.
Believe me, that's the last thing I want to do, is be back here asking for a ledge removal permit.
Okay, so you're not sure yet. You're hoping not.
We haven't done test pits, but based on the existing foundation, we're not seeing any outcroppings.
Okay. I'm sorry, who'd I miss? Eric Henry.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Understand we have 4 affordable units and one, what they're going to be, well, it's all on the inclusionary zone, and then the one that you're going to pan to the front about. So the other units, the other 29 units, are we expecting, what type of class of tenant are you expecting in these units? So that, would they be, you're trying to attract Class A tenants?
I mean, I'll let Andreas, he does direct it, I'll let him talk, but it's, you know, it's gonna be a brand-new building. You know, we're gonna be, you know, higher-end finishes. There's one-bedroom apartments, you know, we'd like to attract the young professionals that are either commuting into Boston or can't quite afford to live in Boston, but they want the accessibility to the train station.
So do you have a ballpark range of what these units may cost?
About $2,300 a month.
And, okay, 23?
Yeah, sir, could you give your name and address for the record and sign the clipboard, please?
Andreas Citos, 148 Main Street, Malden.
And that's it. Thank you very much, Mr.
So that would
Mr.
be
Andres.
these 700 square foot units, 2,300 a month.
Between 600 to 700. $2,300 a month. They pay the utilities.
Thank you. Let me just look quick. Can you speak to, either of you guys speak to, I know you chose as part of the affordable housing to have an agent run the lottery and the other requirements. And I saw someone was already identified to do that for you. Do you know offhand when they would have the reports that would be submitted to the city? Are you involved in all that, or are you just leaving that up to the?
As far as the deed restrictions and all that?
I was thinking more what the, I'm interested to see what the.
Oh, the marketing plan?
The marketing plan, and more importantly, what the lottery plan is, and some of that stuff.
I think, of course, we're all learning together to some degree. Of course, the ordinance is relatively new.
Can you move the mic into the middle? Can't really hear you, Tom.
Sorry, the ordinance is relatively new, so that we all are taking baby steps, but what we anticipate is, given the construction schedule, as we move along, of course, it's all needs to be geared to occupancy. We'll then circle back with the city and the Office of Strategic Planning to, who has the jurisdiction, if you will, for lack of a better term, in the city for the affordable housing. We'd circle back with those folks to determine when they want us to initiate the marketing plan and the lottery, because you don't want to do it too soon, but you want to be ready to go once
So
we
you don't have a timeline, you're waiting to hear from the city what that timeline should be.
Well, I think once we move along, once we get it demoed and start construction, then we're going to meet with the city and say, okay, we have the foundation in, we're moving up vertically, and, you know, here's our timetable. When would you like to see the marketing plan and the lottery?
Okay, I was hoping to see it in the memorandum of understanding, but it really didn't reference it.
Well, the memorandum of understanding was, I think, the city's very astute and reasonable approach to the issue of, you have this construction delay, right? I mean, we don't have full construction drawings yet, so it could be, and I know Scott mentioned 18 months, but it could be 22 months between now and when we actually finish. So to go about and do all these things now really doesn't make any sense, because we have so much time to get those done, including deed restrictions and the like, that it makes perfect sense to say, well, let's see if we get the permit, because you don't want to spend all the time and money to do the things.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting it tonight. I was just curious when you thought you might.
I will say Maloney Properties, that's our third-party vendor for the affordable units here. They're well-versed in it. We're actually using them in 2 other cities right now. They have roughly a timeline of what it takes them to develop a plan, submit it for approval, and actually start filling these units. And it's somewhere in the ballpark, I think it's 6 to 8 months, to develop the plan, get it approved, have the lottery, vet the lottery tenants to make sure that they meet the requirements of the ordinance, and, you know, they're eligible to go in there. So that's the feedback I've gotten on the other 2 properties we're working with them on.
And that was 4 affordable units in Chelsea.
Yeah, and then Beecham, same thing, he told me, so.
Okay. I don't have any more. Does anyone else have any other questions? Michelle, go ahead.
I also just wanted to add, Mr. Chair, so per the terms of this memorandum of understanding, no occupancy permit, temporary or final, for all or any part of the project will be issued by the city unless and until the developer has provided all the required documents. So that's the lottery plan, the marketing plan, and the draft legal instruments. So they're not required to do that until they're going to be looking for an occupancy permit. They can do it in advance, but as they explained, it doesn't make sense to do it too far in advance. But it's occupancy permit, any temporary or final. Yeah, the couple questions I had, you mentioned screening the mechanicals. You're going to screen those visually and for noise reduction?
Yes.
Okay, so you would agree to that. You stated that you intend to salvage and repurpose the granite pillars on site. Is that just the pillars, or is it the wall as well?
The granite slabs as well.
Okay. And in terms of the parking, so you're going to provide 36 parking spaces. You're committed to providing the 36?
Yes.
Okay. I know that's what's shown on the plan, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that was requested at the abutters meeting. That was a very important concern of the abutters, being able to address that, so.
Okay, and I had understood, back to the variance, I thought you had adjusted the plan so you didn't need a variance of lot coverage, but you did obtain, and it's not real clear from the decision, you did obtain a variance?
Yes.
For the lot coverage?
Lot coverage, yeah.
As well. So
Yeah,
what was the adjustment that you made?
The
What-
parking.
It was,
The distance on the parking from the property line.
okay,
That corner of the parking lot.
okay. Okay, thank you. I think that was everything for now, thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you. Anything else you want to add, Counselor? Very good. At this point, we'd like to entertain anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone speak in favor?
Good evening. I'm Chiari Oven, members. I am in favor of this petition, and when the proposal first came up, first thing I wanted to do is make sure that the neighborhood knew what was going on. E.E. Burns has been there for quite a long time, and we did have actually a good number of people that showed up, and believe me, they came prepared. They had their list of questions, they made sure that all their concerns were answered, and they gave a lot of suggestions, and the petitioner really took that information back and made changes. Again, they wanted the neighbors wanted some guest parking, so they increased that. They weren't happy with a roof deck, so there's no more roof deck on the property. So they really did listen to the neighbors, and they talked about some trees, and they actually helped one of the neighbors with an issue they were having.
The neighbor on the back right-hand side, the trees from this property would damage his house, so as soon as we bought the property, we went and cleared the farm.
So they have been really responsive to the neighborhood. And like I said, I'm actually pleased that they're kind of small, one-bedrooms. It helps with not being too intense, for the area. And that they with congestion, it is on Main Street. It is transit-oriented because there's a bus stop pretty much right out their front door, or a couple spots down. The 4 affordable units. It really does, even with they have the variances, but meets the dimensional controls, provides more open space than required, and additional parking, which I think was always kind of important. So I'm happy that, again, with the one bedrooms, it really helps with the affordability and lessens the congestion in that area. I think with the planning report and some of the recommendations, the conditions around traffic and safety, I believe also will further enhance this project, and I'm pleased, and I think it really fits into the neighborhood. The neighbors, not here tonight, but they, after that meeting, they were all on board. So I support this, and I hope you do too.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Diane, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, I do. I received a letter August 14th, 2023, addressed to Charles Iovan, Chair, regarding the petition 22-010 for 204 Main Street LLC. Dear Chair Iovan and members of the Planning Board, this letter is in support of the application for a special permit to construct a multifamily residential dwelling at 204 Main Street, parcel ID number 064-309-925. The property consists of a 2.5-story structure that includes the former site of a funeral business with residential uses on the second and third floors. The current layout of the property includes several additions, making a reuse of the building as is non-economical. The petitioner proposes to demolish the existing building and to construct a 3-story structure that will accommodate 33 one-bedroom rental units, 4 of which will be dedicated as affordable. In addition, per Malden's exclusionary zoning ordinance, a fee in lieu consisting of $340,000 will be paid to the city for the fractional unit that results when calculating the percentage of affordable units. The proposed plan does not conflict with surrounding land uses, provides adequate parking, and will greatly enhance this property. More importantly, the plan addresses the current housing needs of the community and provides much-needed affordable units. In addition, the petitioner has amended the plan to address some of the concerns expressed by the neighborhood. Again, I respectfully request that the board look favorably on this request for a special permit. I thank you for consideration, and please contact me if you need further information. Sincerely, Gary Christensen, Mayor, City of Malden. In an email dated Monday, August 14th, it reads, Dear members of the Malden Planning Board, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing to express my sincere apologies for not being able to attend tonight's meeting regarding the redevelopment of 204 Main Street. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, I am unable to present in person. However, I want to make it known that I fully support this redevelopment project. I understand that it may be disheartening to witness iconic properties like the Burns Funeral being demolished. However, I believe that as time progresses, these properties often lose their ability to effectively serve the residents of Malden. In this regard, I firmly believe that the redevelopment of 204 Main Street will bring numerous benefits to our city. The introduction of more residential options for the citizens of Malden is certainly a step in the right direction. Additionally, the inclusion of 4 affordable housing units and ample parking demonstrates a commitment to catering to the needs of our diverse community. The one-bedroom design further ensures that the impact on our city's infrastructure will be minimal, which is highly appreciated. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the Planning Board and Councilor Crowe for their thorough review, due diligence, and neighborhood outreach efforts. It is reassuring to know that our community and its concerns have been taken into account during the planning process. Once again, I extend my sincerest apologies for my absence at tonight's meeting, and I hope that my support for the development of 204 Main Street is duly noted. I trust that the Planning Board will consider all the conditions outlined by you carefully in the decision-making process. Thank you for your time and dedication. Craig Spatafora, Councilor at Large.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
Very good. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone in opposition? Diane, anything to read in opposition?
I do not.
Seeing no one else in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anything in general that needs to be read in?
I can reference a couple documents. I don't know that we need to read them into the record. One is the decision of the Malden Historical Commission. You have a copy of that in the package. It's dated June 9th, 2022, where they reviewed and approved the proposed demolition. The second has to do with the traffic impact. You also have a copy of the correspondence dated June 14th, 2023, which is the city's peer review of petitioner's traffic impact study and follow-up response. There's also an email dated July 12th, 2023. The correspondence and email that have the peer review are from Kenneth J. Petralia. They make certain recommendations for traffic and safety mitigation that are incorporated into the condition. Do you want me to read those now, or?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So they recommend that, one, provide signs and markings, excuse me, that comply with the Federal Highways Administration Manual on uniform traffic control devices for streets and highways, 2009 edition, Washington, D.C., revised effective September 6, 2022. Two, place both site driveway exits under stop sign control and with stop line pavement markings. Three, design and maintain signs, landscaping, and other opportunities to ensure appropriate sight lines, particularly for site driveways. And four, promptly remove snow windrows to ensure appropriate sight line, particularly for site driveways. So again, that's in correspondence dated June 14, 2023 from Ken Petralia. You also have a copy of this memorandum of understanding that is in your package. Of a copy of that. You also have and that's dated May 12, 2023. You also have a correspondence dated August 3rd, 2023 from Christina Sang, Home Program Director, City of Malden, Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. That's what's known as the compliance memorandum, where she outlines if the project complies with the inclusionary zoning ordinance. So those three different documents you have copies of, and those are incorporated into the record.
And that's all you have?
That's all I have.
Very good, then. Can you take us through your staff report, please, and the recommendation?
Yes, so this is the planning report and recommendation dated August 14, 2023. I won't read it verbatim into the record. It's incorporated herein by reference to the record. Giving you the breakdown according to the plans, the bedrooms, the project we heard about, 33 units, the approximate sizes, also location of the amenities which were discussed. These are the plans that were submitted, floor plans, the site plan, et cetera. There was a drainage report with calculations and stormwater management plan submitted to the city. I did submit that to the city engineer. There was a traffic impact assessment submitted, as well as response to peer review comments. And then there's also a letter regarding inclusionary zoning that's a narrative that's referenced here. That's required by the ordinance. In terms of zoning and occupancy, the subject property is located in the neighborhood business zoning district. The most recent funeral home use was allowed in this district. The original use was a single-family dwelling. The proposed multifamily dwelling use up to 3 stories inclusive may be allowed by special permit in the zoning district. The direct abutters to the south are single and 2-family dwellings, to the west 2-family dwellings, to the north 2-family dwellings, and a paved lot used for parking for the abutting property to the north, which is the mixed-use building with storefront used for retail sales and services, and 4 residential dwelling units. To the east, on the other side of Main Street, is a 2-family dwelling, a mixed-use building with storefront used for general offices, a single-family dwelling, and a multifamily dwelling with 53 units. Surrounding land use is a residential business in Bell Rock Park. In terms of dimensional controls, the proposal complies with all dimensional controls except for density and lot coverage. There were variances granted for both. The decision is dated January 18th, 2023. You have a copy of that decision attached. I've given you the breakdown in terms of density, so what's allowed under the zoning ordinance under multifamily requirements, what was allowed by variance, and then also with the inclusionary zoning density bonus. So for each, prior to, so this is calculated based on the number of units which are allowed under the zoning, which would be 29, and it's 15% of that. So that comes to 4.35, which is for affordable housing units, and then the 0.35. I know seems to be some discrepancies in here in some of the documentation that suggests 0.95, 4.95, but again, the 15% is based on the number of units before the density bonus. You don't apply the 15% to the total, you apply it to the 29. So I'm coming up with 4.35, not 4.95.
Yeah,
So
that's what I came up
I'm not sure, I know the mayor's references the 4.95 as well, but I understand it's 4.35, so.
'Cause I had a question when they were talking about almost $400,000.
It's not, to my knowledge, it's about 121,000.
Right.
It's gonna be the payment.
That's the area I was thinking.
Right, the affordable, the payment in lieu fee is adjusted annually every July 1st. It's published by the city. I did get a copy of what the current, and it's based on the Consumer Price Index for urban consumers. And I did get this directly from Christina Seng, who is the coordinator over in OSBCD. So it's based on the date of the application. So we'd be looking at not the number as of July 1st, it would be the number as of last July 1st, which is 347,171. So that's the payment in lieu for one unit. So you multiply the 0.35 times that, and again, I'm coming up with the 120, approximately 121, 509. That's gonna be the payment for the fractional unit. Open space, we heard about, parking requirements, again, 33 are required. The market rate units require 1 per bedroom, the affordable housing units require 1 space per unit. So that's how we're coming up with the 33. They're stating they're gonna provide 36. Access driveways, we heard about, the bicycle parking wasn't shown on the original plans, it's now shown in the room. Landscaping, snow storage, screening, trash, we've talked about all of those. Traffic impact, we've talked about. Inclusionary zoning, we just talked about. And other than that, I think that's everything. I won't repeat all this again. Stormwater management, demo delay. I did not hear back from the city engineer. He did receive copies of everything. So the findings you would need to make to grant a special permit, you would need to find, 1, that any increase or creation in violation of dimensional controls or parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. 2, you would need to find that the residential use is in the interest of the common good. And 3, you need to find compliance with the requirements of the inclusionary zoning ordinance. So provided you make those findings, the recommendation would be to grant a special permit subject to the following conditions. Do you want to go through, or do you want to
Yes,
ask
please.
questions? Okay. 1, all development shall be as per plans, except as modified by these conditions. 2, the maximum number of dwelling units is 33, the maximum number of bedrooms is 33, and a minimum of 4 units shall be affordable housing units. 3, prior to issuance of any occupancy permit, developer owner shall make a one-time cash payment to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as an alternative method of compliance in lieu payment in the amount required by ordinance for the fractional required affordable housing unit. 4, prior to issuance of any occupancy permit, developer owner shall comply with all terms of the Memorandum of Understanding dated May 12, 2023 regarding affordable housing units, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. 5, developer owner shall implement the following traffic and safety mitigation. A, place both site driveway exits under stop sign control with stop line pavement markings. B, provide signs and markings that comply with the Federal Highways Administration Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways, 2009 edition, revised 9/6/2022. C, design and maintain signs, landscaping, and other appurtenances to ensure appropriate sight lines on-site and at-site driveways. D, promptly remove snow windrows to ensure appropriate sightlines on-site and at-site driveways. 6, install and maintain all open space and landscaping as depicted on the site layout plan and landscape plan. 7, install and maintain privacy fencing along southern property line to screen residential abutters from parking. 8, temporary construction dumpsters permitted, no permanent dumpsters allowed. 9, provide bicycle parking for a minimum of 4. And we could put inside room and garage as per plan, since that's been added. 10, install and maintain stormwater management system on site as per plans and subject to reasonable modification by city engineer. We like to put that in because we don't actually have his approval yet. He may want something modified, so that's the recommended language. I would also recommend 11, 36 parking spaces shall be provided. I was not sure if we should say a maximum or a minimum. The problem with going more than 36, I think it's going to eat into the open space. It also may have an impact on traffic if it was increased too much. So, but I do think you should specify the 36 since that's not required by ordinance. So I'm not sure if you should state a maximum or just state 36 parking spaces shall be provided.
I think we should put 36, because, I mean, that's less than 10% of the people that are in residence, so, I mean,
Okay.
technically those 3 units qualify as several, but several's 3 to 7. So, you know, I think just putting 36, but I wouldn't want to hamper them if they can get more or if things change.
Well, that's the thing. If they could configure more without affecting the open space, I guess you would want them to.
Right.
So do you want to say a minimum or you just want to say 36? Okay. Just say 36, okay. So 12, I think you should also include this. This, as the petitioner mentioned, this was mentioned at the Historical Commission, but it wasn't included in their decision. 12, salvage and repurpose granite pillars and slabs on site. 13, screen rooftop mechanicals visually and for noise reduction.
And what was number 12? I'm sorry.
Salvage and repurpose granite pillars and slabs on site. The slabs from the wall, you could say. Because that's what you're talking about, right? The wall that runs along the front of the property.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Michelle? No questions for Michelle? Is there a motion then? Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit with the 13 conditions as described by Michelle.
Hold on one second. Okay, and then the next person is Henry Susi.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the special permit with 13 conditions as read by Michelle, by Eric McCush, and seconded by Henry Susi. Let me see if I can't get caught up here. 1, 2. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Diane Chuha?
Yes.
Tadej Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Stephanie Stone?
Yes.
Ronnie Raj Verma?
Yes.
Chuck Iovan?
No. Okay, so the special permit's been granted 8-1. And you understand the conditions? Very good. Have a good evening. Okay, next item on the agenda is Community Preservation Committee. Mr. Eric, who are you in? You're in the Carrie McDonald seat, I think. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably for the last time of the evening, Community Preservation Committee is meeting next Wednesday. Out of abundance of caution, we postponed our last meeting because we didn't want it to come into question whether or not it had been duly noted and advertised. So this is, we didn't have a meeting last month, so we're going to make up for that this time. So come out and join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. The next hearing that we'll have, the next meeting is September 13th, 2023, which is a Wednesday. It's a full agenda already. As I alluded to with the tabling, I mean, unfortunately, the tabling's going to keep, we've got a lot of things that are hitting all at once. So, you know, postponing this stuff is just going to mean that they are going to have to wait to be heard and be taken off the table. To that point, we'd like to get everyone's thoughts on their availability on September 27th, which is the fourth Wednesday of the month, because we're anticipating that there's going to be a need to have a joint hearing with the ordinance committee, and you know we're jammed up. We're going to end up probably doing 4 hearings on the 13th. And then the special hearing on the 27th, and then I think we got at least 3 that could possibly hit the next month for October. So.
Yeah, we did, for everyone's reference, we did have 3 scheduled for tonight, but somebody didn't advertise, so we were trying to get ahead of it, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Did not work, so.
So.
But yeah, if you could let me know September 13th, if anybody here cannot attend, and also the 27th, because we're gonna need to be setting those agendas.
At the moment, I can attend both, so.
Okay, so Chuck was yes to both. Who else? Diane? Okay, do you wanna? Henry Susi can attend both? Okay. Anyone else? Stephanie is giving thumbs up for both. Pat, thumbs up. Okay. Eric?
I probably can. I gotta check you off from off.
Okay.
Smart man.
Warden gonna let you out to play?
My daughter said yes, so I don't know.
You're saying yes? Okay. She said for both, okay. So are they, yes? Okay, oh, wait, are you a maybe?
September 27, I'm available, but September 13, I'm not sure, I have to check my calendar.
Okay.
Yeah.
27, you're yes, 13, you're not sure.
Yes.
Okay.
If
And
any-
Ronnie, what are you doing? Yes? Thank you.
And if anyone goes home tonight and finds out or realizes tomorrow morning that there's some sort of conflict, just let Michelle know right away so that we can plan accordingly.
I'm still gonna check with Ken and Lisa as well. I'll send that email probably tomorrow.
Right.
The 13th is our regular meeting, so I'm presuming everybody has that typically on account. It's the 27th. But as Chuck said, that's gonna be for, likely gonna be for the joint public hearing with City Council Ordinance Committee, so, on that matter that was tabled last month,
Right. So,
so.
okay, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
One more thing, if everybody could please take the MBTA community zoning survey, if you haven't already taken it, it's gonna close September 15th. I'll remind you again at our meeting, but it's really important, everybody should take it, encourage everybody in your family and friends to take it as well, please.
Yeah, no, it didn't take that long either.
No, but they're gonna, we're supposedly gonna use the input